When Champion City's superhero goes missing, 7 wannabes try to save the day. Join us as we chat about why laugh tracks exist, a random doctor's endorsement, and the body parts that have nothing to do with flatulence. Hey now, you're an all-star, as we see if Mystery Men stands the test of time.
Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? James says gladiator with a glut, and Alan says as a father blah blah. It's the test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Test of Time. I'm James Brief, and joining me as always, my co-host and the director of this podcast, Alan Noah.
Hi, that's me. I am excited to talk about Mystery Men. But before we get into Mystery Men, I wanted to talk to you about this other movie I saw, a non-summer blockbuster, The Invite. Have you heard of this movie?
No, is that streaming?
No, it's in the theater. It's directed by and stars Olivia Wilde, and she co-stars with Seth Rogen, Penelope Cruz, Edward Norton, and that's it. There are no other people in the movie. It's just the 4 of them. It is so damn funny. Last year, I told you about going to see that movie Friendship in the theater and how I was like, oh, it's so great to see a comedy in the theater, and I miss that. And I know you talk about that it's really fun to be in a theater seeing a comedy. The difference is that when I saw Friendship last summer, I went with some friends and we had a blast just hanging out and laughing, the 5, 6 of us, however many guys there were. But the theater itself was kind of empty. This time, when we saw The Invite, the theater was packed. We got there late. We literally had to sit in the front row, which I hate. But honestly, the movie was so funny and so entertaining, I didn't mind. And it's even better when the theater is packed and everybody is laughing all together, the same bits, the same moments that are just gut-bustingly funny. You know, it's nice when there's a whole crowd of people laughing.
It's a reason that theaters should still exist. I think that laughter might be one of the few human emotions that's contagious. I mean, that's why there's a laugh track on comedy shows, to kind of
Sure.
be like, hey, let's all laugh at this. And Olivia Wilde's, I think this might be her 3rd movie she directed. She had that movie Booksmart, and then Don't Worry, Darling, and then this one. She's pretty acclaimed as a director, also a good actress.
Yeah. I know you've told me before that you don't have Apple TV, but Olivia Wilde was on an episode of The Studio, or maybe a couple episodes. I don't know if that's where she and Seth Rogen became friends or what, but they have such great chemistry. By the way, Edward Norton, hilarious. I mean, he is so damn funny in this movie, and I don't associate Edward Norton as being particularly funny in general. I think of Fight Club and Primal Fear and American History X. He's done some comedy with Wes Anderson, Moonrise Kingdom, and The French Dispatch, I believe. In those movies, he shows that he has comedic chops, but I don't think I've ever seen him this funny as he is in The Invite.
Well, similar to Olivia Wilde, I know that Edward Norton directed a film, a comedy, kind of a lighthearted comedy. It was with Ben Stiller and Jenna Elfman. I don't know if you ever saw that movie, Keeping the Faith.
Yes, I did see that.
I mean, that was a comedy. It wasn't one of these, Farrelly Brothers, gut-busting funny comedies. But is the movie funny or is Edward Norton funny?
The movie is really funny all around. It does, at the end, get pretty emotional and heavy. I think that's kind of what comedies are now in general, like broadly speaking.
I think that's a good assessment of modern comedies, because comedies today can still have that pivot point at the end, which gives you another little emotion there. It seals it.
Oh, sure. There are still dumb comedies that are being made. I kind of want to see Gail Daughtry and the Celebrity Sex Pass, which I'm guessing is more of a silly, lighthearted comedy. I say that because it's directed by David Wayne, and I love him, and I'm a fan of his work, and, Wet Hot American Summer is one of my all-time favorites. So I'm guessing that's funny without the super heavy emotional stuff. but I don't know for sure.
It elevates a comedy to actually be something a little serious too.
Yeah.
And you can actually somewhat care about the characters. Not that Dumb and Dumber, that I would say has probably zero serious moments. Not that that's a bad film in any way. For the right film, you know when to make that pivot.
Right. But let's talk about Mystery Men. I'm pretty sure this was the second time I've ever seen this movie. I think I saw it in the theater. I feel like this is the first movie that we're doing on the podcast in a while that isn't tied to any new releases, any anniversaries. It was just hey, let's talk about this one. So you'd seen this movie before?
Just like you, I'd seen it once before.
Okay.
And I've thought about this movie for years because I've always wondered how people would see this film in the post-Marvel era.
Okay. So why don't you give our listeners a recap of what this movie is all about?
Sure. This movie begins with three would-be superheroes, Mr. Furious, the Shoveler, and Blue Raja. The team lives in the shadow of Champion City's famous superhero, Captain Amazing. Now, Captain Amazing, he foolishly engineers the release of his arch-enemy, Casanova Frankenstein, great name, in order to boost his own popularity. But Casanova captures Captain Amazing and launches a plan to destroy the city with a superweapon. Forced into action, Mr. Furious, the Shoveler, and Blue Raja recruit several equally odd allies, such as the Spleen, Invisible Boy, the Bowler, and others. And with the help of the mysterious Sphinx, the team learns to embrace their unconventional abilities and ultimately save Champion City.
Okay, so when this movie came out in 99, how did it do at the box office?
It did not do well, Al. This movie had, actually a surprisingly big budget for 1999. It had a $68 million budget. It opened in August 6th, 1999, and it opened at number 6 with only $10 million. It was beaten by Blair Witch and Thomas Crown Affair, Deep Blue Sea. You still have Phantom Menace and American Pie and The Iron Giant in here. So this was a very crowded summer, and also it's August. 1999 is also known as one of those great years of cinema, so it kind of got lost in there, and it only ended up with $29 million domestically, and it made a few million worldwide, so it made about half of its budget back.
Gotcha. When the movie starts, we are thrown into this very, very stylized world. It looks like Batman and Robin, the Joel Schumacher fourth Batman movie. It looks like something out of a comic book. I guessed when the movie started. I was like, I bet this was based on a Dark Horse Comics book series or whatever.
Really? You were right.
Yeah, I did. Because it has that vibe. It looks kind of like The Mask, the Jim Carrey movie that I think was also a Dark Horse comic series. So it feels stylized. And my guess was that this was not created whole cloth by the screenwriters and director, that it came from some IP.
Yeah, and it turns out it was. It's a very similar genre to other movies and series that we've encountered since. Things like The Boys, a series that recently finished on Amazon based on a graphic novel series. And also, I don't know if you've ever seen Kick-Ass.
Of course, yeah.
Both of these movies kind of ask the question, what would superheroes be like in the real world?
Right.
Basically, it kind of says that real superheroes would probably get their asses kicked. And it kind of borders on whether or not people have superpowers to begin with. You take some people like Invisible Boy, and they do seem to have some supernatural powers. Mr. Furious may or may not, who's Ben Stiller, he may or may not actually have any powers. He might just be a really angry guy. But
right.
There is this guy, Captain Amazing, and it's not really explained, is this guy just like a super cop, or does he have superpowers?
It seems like the implication is that he is a Batman, Iron Man-esque guy, meaning he's strong, he works out, but also he's rich, and he has the gadgets and the gizmos, and so we see him flying to Casanova's lair, but not like Superman flying, he's using a jetpack. So I don't think he has any real superpowers himself, nor does Casanova Frankenstein. It seems like in this world, some people do have real, legitimate, supernatural superpowers, and some of them are just kind of faking it, basically.
Kind of, yeah. Captain Amazing, he looks like he's a NASCAR driver.
Yeah.
He's got the Rayovac, he's got Konica.
You're talking about the endorsements on his uniform.
Right, the endorsements all over. It looks exactly like someone straight out of NASCAR.
Yeah.
These heroes have publicists, they have agents, and the corporate sponsors, we said. I like that not everyone good is really good. I mean, Captain Amazing seems like he's kind of a douchebag, even though he's rescuing people, certainly.
He's rescuing people and he's saving the day, but it seems like it's not coming from a place of genuine altruism. He cares about the sponsors and the money and the fame. In that first scene at the senior center, he stops the bad guys. He helps all of those people, but he's doing it for the press.
Yeah. He goes to the other guards and the minor heroes, the first three guys, Mr. Furious, Shoveler, and Raja. He tells them, hey, keep up the good work. Good for you, almost like he's pinching their cheeks. Like, oh, you're cute little superheroes.
Right. And the three of them, Furious, Shoveler, and Blue Raja, they don't have superpowers. And they don't have money and cool tech and cool gear. And they're not particularly strong. They're not well coordinated. They have nothing going on. So he kind of has a right to turn his nose up at them. But, you know, hey, they're trying. I did like early on how Mr. Furious says that people who don't close their mouths when they chew is one of the things that makes him furious, because I can very much relate to that. That definitely makes me furious too. And I'm sure you noticed this. Blue Raja, there are a couple moments when he sounds just like Professor Frink, which of course makes sense because he's Hank Azaria. He does a little glavin along the way.
When I first heard him, I was thinking, what a terrible accent. And then I'm thinking, but this is Hank Azaria, who is, I think, underrated as one of the great voice actors of our time. So I was thinking, why is this so bad? And then, of course, he's faking it. It's a purposely bad British Cockney accent or whatnot. That's actually, I think it's a talent when sometimes you have actors acting like they're bad actors for that role, like they're playing an actor or actress who has no talent. That takes a lot. So let's talk about this cast while we're at it, because this is a stacked cast.
Yeah.
All of these people were not unknowns, but for a lot of them, maybe their most famous and money-making days were still ahead of them.
Ben Stiller had some success at this point. Janine Garofalo a bit. Jeffrey Rush, this was, I think, one of his first Hollywood movies. I think really the best actor in this movie is William H. Macy. He really is holding it together. He's doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of character and heart and making this fantastical world kind of feel like it's grounded in some reality. I think a lot of that comes from the scenes with him and his wife and his kids, where he's doing this for a purpose. He's the opposite of Captain Amazing. He cares. That's why he wants to be a superhero. And it's putting incredible strain on his marriage, but he can't let it go because he feels that it is so important to be a hero, to do the right thing. He really carries a lot of the heavy acting in this movie.
Yeah. Greg Kinnear is also very popular at this time. Invisible Boy, I was like, I know this guy. Where do I know this guy from?
You didn't recognize him because he wasn't with the other guy he's usually with, Keenan?
Well, it's Kel Mitchell from Keenan and Kel. It's almost like in 1999, you knew one of them were going to be real famous, if not both of them, because they were both very talented and funny child actors. You also had Claire Forlani. Mm-hmm. I do not understand why every single director or caster has taken this beautiful British actress and told her to sound American. It's a little bit of a shame because she always pops up, but she never became as big as I thought she would be.
Yeah. And moving from the cast, we should talk about this movie's director. His name is Kinka Usher.
Yeah.
He never directed a movie before this. He has not directed another movie since then. He was known for directing commercials, specifically the Taco Bell Chihuahua ad campaign. That was his claim to fame. And they offered this movie to Ben Stiller to direct. And he was not into it. He's like, that would be a huge movie, a huge project. No thanks. I think this movie would have been better if he had directed. Kinka Usher makes some choices in this movie. And I kind of didn't mind all of the POV shots where it's just people's faces. When the shoveler is talking to his wife, you see it from his point of view, from his wife's point of view, and then they do that with the bowling ball. They do it in some of the action scenes. That's a choice. I don't know that it always works, but I respect him for going for it. I think a bigger problem was that this movie is really dark. And I don't mean, in terms of its themes. I mean, like, it's hard to see. It's hard to make out what's happening on screen. I had to adjust my brightness. I had to make the screen way brighter than I ever do because I just couldn't make out what was going on in a lot of these scenes, especially the night scenes, the action scenes. It was really hard to see.
That's funny you say that because I watched this film on my laptop and I actually adjusted the brightness.
Yeah. Also, it's not dark in tone, but the tone of this movie is also all over the map. It feels like this movie can't quite decide if it's over the top silly. Is it camp? Is it supposed to be kind of grounded in reality? I do put that on the director. I think the director really should have nailed down a tone and stuck with it. And that doesn't mean you can't deviate and you can't have things that are a little off kilter, but I felt like this movie was kind of giving me whiplash in terms of what it was trying to evoke.
That's true. Later things like Kick-Ass and The Boys kind of figure out how to subvert this superhero genre in a way that perhaps Mystery Men was trying to do.
Yes. And that's a shame because the one scene that I really remembered from this movie is the tryout scene, the auditions for all of the other superheroes. And in my memory, that scene was really funny. And watching it yesterday, nope. I thought it was just a lot of forced jokes. Okay, we've got these two women who are dressed up kind of sort of like Wonder Woman, and then they fight, and they're all into watching the girls fight. That's not funny. There's Ballet Man, who seems like he could literally kick some ass if they had, given him a fair shot, but they don't because, ha ha ha, he's a man who does ballet. There's the PMS Avenger, and guess what? She only works 4 days a month. Like, these are all lame, lazy, eye-roll worthy jokes.
I agree with you. Because I think that Invisible Boy's power is hysterical. He says, I can turn invisible, but only when nobody's watching me.
Right.
It's great. And I wish that more of these powers were kind of like stupid powers. Dane Cook, he has a part in there. I think it's kind of funny where he calls himself a waffler.
Right.
But all he does is he holds some waffle irons. Make it a little eccentric, like, oh, he got struck by lightning when he was making waffles, and now he has a stupid power where maple syrup comes out of his nose or something.
The joke with the waffler was that he can't make any decisions. He's indecisive, and so he waffles back and forth. But then Dane Cook showed up with a waffle iron, and I think they were like, what are you doing here? But I guess they thought it was funny. I was never that into Dane Cook in general. He had a moment, and that one stand-up special was okay, I thought.
And he had all of his money stolen from him. I don't know if you ever heard that story. It's kind of a sad story.
Yeah, that sounds vaguely familiar. But with the inconsistent comedy, that was also apparently a source of friction among the cast members because they were all trying to be funny and trying to out-funny one another. And that apparently just led to a lot of tension on set. Nobody was happy. It made the director unhappy. Ben Stiller and Greg Kinnear got into a huge fight. They only have one scene together, but apparently they really didn't like working together, and Ben Stiller threatened to quit, or he tried to quit. Honestly, I think Greg Kinnear, what he's trying to do comedy-wise works because he's just an arrogant prick and he's able to play that well, and it comes across as funny without trying too hard, which is kind of the polar opposite of Paul Rubin's character, Spleen, which is just fart jokes. I can laugh at a good fart joke. I don't think any of these fart jokes are particularly funny. It also doesn't make any sense. I mean, you should say this as the gastroenterologist, but the spleen has nothing to do with flatulence, right?
No, it had nothing to do with it. And the late Paul Rubens, of course, known as Pee Wee Herman, he's very funny. I think even in this, he's kind of funny, and his voice is kind of funny. He talks like this.
Oh no, I hate his voice. His voice is so grating. I hate it.
I think it's fine. What I don't get is why they gave him these awful white heads all over his face and made him kind of disgusting. Like you said, fart jokes can be funny. These weren't. Maybe he can be embarrassed by it. Maybe he can be super excited about it. But all he does is he simply does the pull my finger.
Which doesn't make you fart. Or maybe it does for some people. That never worked with me. I will do it right now. I just pull my finger. Nothing happens. Like the spleen isn't connected to flatulence, your finger isn't either.
There's something there, though. The fact that he can aim fart like straight across the room, there's something there, but it's not executed the right way.
Correct.
A joke that I never liked even in the 90s is disco jokes. And I think it might be because we were born too late for the I hate disco, and when disco peaked and when it was dying, in the late 70s, beginning of the 80s, we missed all that. So like a disco is dead. No, it isn't joke. It's just not that funny. It's outdated.
In 1999, when this movie came out, I think you could make the argument that disco was kind of dead then. I also think you could make the argument in 2026 that disco's alive and well. It's not the exact same sound as it was in the 70s, but there are plenty of Dua Lipa and The Weeknd songs that sound very, very disco-y. I hear what you're saying, though. Like, the idea to say, oh, disco is dead, it just doesn't land as a punchline because... Was it?
You're right. Disco is probably more popular today than it was in the late 90s. I think if you're at a wedding or something and Gloria Gaynor comes on, I think people will be more excited than they would 20 years ago when they would say, what the hell are you putting this on for? So there's something to that.
Yeah. There's also some random Yiddish in this movie.
Yes, there is.
They refer to the whole Mishigas.
Sei gesund.
You and I get it because we're Jewish and we have relatives who speak Yiddish. I can imagine that some people were just kind of confused by that in the movie.
Absolutely.
Tom Waits' character, Doc Heller, he says vaya con Dios, which I think more people will get that as just a thing people say, go with God, than a Yiddish expression for what you say after somebody sneezes. But, I liked it, so I'm not complaining about it.
Right.
I did also just like seeing Tom Waits acting.
Throughout this film, it happens to have Smash Mouth's All Star. Mm-hmm. And I would say that most people today would know All Star from the opening montage of Shrek. And just generally, it's a popular song, but it was made for this film.
Right. I remember the music video. It had scenes from the movie. I guess it makes sense. Hey, now you're an all-star. They're wannabe superheroes. They are all-stars. Sure. I'll buy it.
There's something that I see it in movies a lot, that the villain has a plot and they use a tool at their disposal that tool alone is so much more valuable than anything they would possibly want. What I mean by this is Casanova has a throwaway line that he says, I'm going to use my cold fusion ring to do something, something, something. And I'm thinking, wait, what? You have a ring that does cold fusion, which is the holy grail of all of physics, which is basically free energy forever. I do find it interesting that Casanova has all these things at his disposal. The laser he uses to kill Captain Amazing.
Well, no, he doesn't kill Captain Amazing.
Oh, right. He doesn't mean to.
Well, I mean, you don't really get his motivation at all. Does he just want to kill everybody in Champion City? Okay, why? He's not doing it for money or power. If he just has bloodlust and wants to kill people, okay, fine, I guess, but it's just not an interesting motivation. In his parole hearing, his therapist says that he's completely cured. It's kind of a Harley Quinn Joker sort of dynamic that's not at all explored. They drop that really fast. Jeffrey Rush is chewing the scenery. It looks like he's having fun. I think he's just over the top and overacting. And again, with the inconsistent tone, I don't think what he's going for really works in this movie, which it should. Like, it could kind of complement the more campy elements of the movie. But also in that parole scene, you see him shirtless and he is frail. And then when he's punching Furious at the end, I don't really buy that this is a fair fight. I would think that Ben Stiller could easily kick the shit out of Jeffrey Rush. And yeah, Casanova has all of these gadgets and gizmos, so maybe he has a strongifying thing that makes him throw harder punches. Sure, but they never say that.
Right. He has all these rings on, and but any of those could have given powers. But you're right, it is weird seeing Ben Stiller's 30 years old in this, and Jeffrey Rush is probably in his 50. So it is a weird fight at the end.
Yeah.
I do like the bowler's background. Ginny Garofalo, she says that her father was killed. It was ruled as a suicide, that he fell down an elevator shaft and he landed on some bullets.
Right.
I think that's funny.
That is funny. There is a supernatural element to the bowler because the bowling ball has her dead father's skull and she can communicate with it and it can bounce around and it basically is sentient. It can choose what it's going to hit and who it's going to hurt. Okay, that's fine. It's funny, I guess. Janine Garofalo and Ben Stiller dated, right?
I don't know.
I think they dated. They said they dated for 3 weeks. But whatever. This is a very minor quibble, but it does annoy me when movies do this. Casanova tells Amazing that he's going to kill him tomorrow night. The next night is when the good guys see Casanova in the limo and they trash the limo and then they go and meet the Sphinx and there's a training montage and that's over the course of a day or two because they do walking on hot coals. So that's at night and then there's day and it's not the next night. And I know you're not supposed to think about this shit and I know I'm annoyingly literal, but I do hate when movies do that because now that's in my brain. And I can believe that this is mainly an Alan Noah issue and maybe this kind of stuff bothers 0.00001% of movie watchers. But it's so easy to fix. Just say, I will kill you soon. I will kill you in a week. I will kill you on Saturday. And then you don't know which day it is. Like, it's fine. But when you say, I will kill you tomorrow, then I'm thinking, oh, the stakes are high. They don't have a lot of time. But in fact, they do. They have multiple days to try to rescue Amazing.
That's fair. I'll say it's waffling on when he will kill them.
Exactly. The scene where Captain Amazing dies, it's an accident. They're trying to rescue him, and he's giving poor instructions on how to flip the toggles, and they inadvertently kill him. I like that because I didn't see it coming. I think that's a nice twist that kind of doesn't pay off plot-wise, that they killed the city's greatest hero. Are they going to tell people that? Maybe they don't want to, as this new superhero team that saved the city. Maybe they don't want to mention that they accidentally killed him. They could blame Casanova, but then they're starting out on a lie. It's not a big deal, but I wonder if the reason that Captain Amazing dies in that scene is because Greg Kinnear and Ben Stiller fought while they were making the movie and they just wanted to get rid of the character and be done with it and not have him come back for later scenes. This is pure conjecture, but I kind of think that's a fair theory because otherwise it is just kind of weird.
I feel like if this film was more successful, there would be a sequel. And I think the idea, at least plot-wise, it kind of can fit in that Captain Amazing is gone, and now here's the new superheroes that will protect Champion City. We haven't talked about this guy played by Tom Waits, Dr. Sphinx, or the Sphinx.
No. Tom Waits plays Doc Heller, the weapons guy. Wes Studi plays the Sphinx, who is the mysterious shaman who does have superpowers. He cuts the bad guys' bullets in half with his mind, I guess. But also he just speaks in these riddles. And so, he kind of annoys Furious because everything he says is pointless wordplay that doesn't mean anything.
When you doubt your powers doubt you.
No, you give power to your doubt. That does make a little bit of sense.
You're right, but every single quote he says is predictable, and then Ben Stiller is able to call him out on that.
Yeah.
I like angry Ben Stiller, but it's just not enough necessarily to carry the film.
No, certainly not. I a little bit like the end where they are trying to come up with a team name for these superheroes. I think it's Sphinx who says Super Squad, and then the bowler says, no, alliteration in these situations is corny. That made me laugh because I say Alan always adores alliterations. It's also a meta joke because they are the mystery men, which then the reporter does say, who are these mystery men? Eye roll.
And I like that joke because the reporter says, who are these mystery men? And then they go, wait, that's it. We're the power squad, or whatever it is they say. So
Super Squad,
it's
yeah.
good. They never say it. And then finally, in like the last sentence of the film, you feel like they're going to say, yes, the mystery men. And then they don't. So I like that. It was a good joke at the end. A little bit predictable, but well done.
Yeah.
I thought it ended on a nice joke.
I kept the movie playing throughout the credits. I was mildly curious if there would be a post-credit scene. There isn't, but there is a line towards the end of the credits where it says Dockers khakis are the official khaki of Champion City. And I was like, oh, that's weird.
That is funny.
There is a lot of product placement in the movie. Pepsi gets shouted out a lot, but I didn't notice Dockers. Maybe just because the screen was too dark and I needed to further adjust my brightness, but I thought that was weird.
That's either a line because Dockers were actually in there, or it's actually kind of a funny line to randomly throw that in there. Like if you randomly just at the end of the credits said, Captain Amazing only uses Purina dog food for his dog. Like, just random, let's throw an endorsement in here. So I don't know what the origin of that is, but that's a kind of funny thing in my headcanon that it's just completely made up.
That's totally fair. But James, what do you think about Mystery Men as a whole? Do you think the movie stands a test of time?
You know, it's interesting because I don't think that this movie stands a test of time. However, you can make the argument that this movie's failures is what leads to things like The Boys and Kick-Ass and these other Invincible, subverting the superhero genre. And I think you kind of nailed it. I don't know much about this director, and I had to look him up too, because I was really wondering who was at the helm here. I don't know if Ben Stiller could have fixed this, but I do think that there is a good version of this film, and possibly even the sequel. Could have been a quite good film. I don't think people were really ready for superhero films yet. The bad taste of Batman and Robin was still in people's mouths from 1997, and superheroes were not something you can market well at this time. There's really a lot of talent here, and there are funny parts to it. The overall story, I think, is good. I think a bunch of ragtag superheroes that are trying to make it and be as good as the real superhero guys. I think there's a lot here. Unfortunately, this particular movie just doesn't do it. It's not funny enough. It's not terrible. And there's a lot of better movies and television shows that take this idea and do it a lot better. So for me, no. Mystery Men, it's not an awful film, but it doesn't stand the test of time. What about you, Al? 99's Mystery Men, stand the test of time, yes or no?
I don't think so. I agree with you. This movie walked so that Kick-Ass and the boys could fly. Cool, but it just doesn't work. You know who else doesn't think that this movie works? Ben Stiller, Janine Garofalo, clearly the director, because he never wanted to direct another movie. I was talking about the tone. I think ultimately this movie is trying to be funny. It's trying to be subversive. It's trying to be clever. And it's not really any of those things. And if it failed on that front, but was still an enjoyable superhero movie in and of itself, okay, it's not that either. And so it's really just a mishmash of stuff. I agree with you that there's potential in a story like this. I could certainly imagine that maybe the comic book that it's based on is really clever and inventive and subversive. Maybe, maybe not. I've never read it. I don't know. But this movie just feels like nothing. And it hasn't stood the test of time in the sense that people remember it, talk about it. You know, it's not really a cult classic. Like you said earlier, the only thing memorable that came from this movie is All-Star by Smash Mouth. Good on the producers for including that in the soundtrack. But this movie is far less than the sum of its parts, and it definitely does not stand the test of time.
It does have a cameo by director Michael Bay. Did you catch him in there?
No.
He's one of the frat boys, and as Casanova's bringing him to his lair, he's like, "Can we bring our brews?" And he's like, "Sure, you could bring your brews."
I think the word is brewskis.
Yeah, brewskis.
So Michael Bay didn't have to do any acting for this role, is what you're saying. He just showed up wearing what he normally wears, drinking what he normally drinks, wanting to bring his brewski, and they happened to film it, and it ended up in the movie.
Yeah, maybe he didn't even know he was in a movie. I have no idea.
I bet he didn't.
I love that you just made that up, because I know nothing about Michael Bay, the person. I mean, do you know anything about him? Is he a big beer-drinking frat guy? I have no idea.
I don't know. Maybe he's lovely. Maybe he does a lot of charity work. I don't fucking know. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Come back next week when we'll be talking about The Last Boy Scout. I've never seen this, but you got to be excited for this one, right, James?
Yeah, I've seen this movie exactly once. It's Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans, I believe.
Right. I'm looking forward to that. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. We are at Test of Time Pod on Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. Let us know what you think about Mystery Men, about Ben Stiller, Janine Garofalo, Greg Kinnear, Jeffrey Rush, all of the talented people in this movie, what you think about superheroes and superhero parodies. Comment on YouTube, comment on Spotify, any which way you want to reach out. We love hearing from you, and we'll see you next time, everybody.
Bye.